will call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen July 15th to order. And if we can all rise, and Jackie, could you lead us in the pledge this evening? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done. Thank you, Jackie. Practicing. All right, so we have very important business before us this evening. We have officially opening the public hearing on the release of existing conservation easements for the Meadowwood subdivision and acceptance of the new conservation easements for Meadowwood. So we want to do a quick overview, Maria and Mike, just for the folks at home of what the business is before us this evening. Just quick. Mike? Again, the only reason I asked you to do that is because I think there's been some confusion over the last few days. They saw the land use sign. And again, this is obviously part of the intended purchase and one of the important steps to acquire the Meadowwood property.
So thanks, John, for that kind of cued on that. So this is associated with the open space purchase first for the record, Mike Liddy, Director of Planning, Town of Simsbury. What you're hearing tonight is two actions. One, as part of the open space purchase for the Meadowwood project, the town has to release existing open space easements, conservation easements, which are associated with that residential development. And as part of the purchase of the project for open space purposes, there are new easements which are for purposes of keeping the project as open space. So that's really what we're here tonight. Straightforward.
Appreciate that, Mike. And just to confirm, planning met the other evening and they have given a positive referral.
Correct. The Planning Commission gave a positive referral not only for the release of the existing easements, but also a positive referral for the acceptance of the new easements.
Great. So appreciate that.
And the re-subdivision also was approved.
Excellent. Appreciate that. It's an important step in the process. So for folks at home that can't see, we actually don't have anybody here to comment for the public hearing. I don't know, Anna or Bob, if there was any comments you wanted to add, but we have no public participation here at this point. It's okay if not. Just wanted to make sure I gave everybody a chance. All right, I'll need a motion to officially close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion. Okay, and I'll second it.
So
Jackie made a motion.
Wendy seconded. Any discussion on the matter? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It carries 4-0. All right, so the public hearing is closed. Now we will take up the item of, and I'll be looking for a motion effective July 15th, 2021 to release the existing conservation easements for the Meadowwood subdivision as recorded in volume 847 in pages 1079 to 1100, and to accept the revised conservation easements associated with the town's acquisition of the Meadowwood property as depicted on the Meadowwood re-subdivision plan as approved by the Planning Commission at their July 13th, 2021 meeting.
I will move that. Wendy.
Second it, Mike.
All right, any updates, referrals, as we heard from Mike? This is just a standard process. Bob, go ahead.
Let me just for the benefit of people watching, let me explain how this will work. If you approve the release and acceptance of the easement, the old release of the old and acceptance of the new, there won't be any point in time when this land will not be covered by a conservation easement, because these will be the release document and the easement documents will be closing documents. And when we get to a closing on the Meadowwood property, we will sequence it in such a way that the subdivision Mylar will be recorded, and then the release will be recorded, and then simultaneous to that or immediately after that, the new easement documents will be recorded. So when we leave the closing table, the old will be replaced by the new, and the old subdivision will be supplanted by the new subdivision, which just for information's sake, we will go from 180 some odd building lots to 6 lots, 4 of which will be completely dedicated to open space, 1 of which will be reserved for future municipal use, and 1 very small lot, I think less than 2 acres, will be subject to sale to a third party outside of this transaction. That transaction is between the seller and the third party. So at the end of this simultaneous closing, the town will own all 5 of the 6 lots 4 of which will be completely covered by conservation easements to the funders, whether it be the Department of Agriculture or the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. So I don't want anyone to think that there won't be a period of time when this land is not covered by conservation easements as it is today.
Appreciate that explanation. Thank you. I think that's really important. And that 5th lot that the town's going to own, we have no dedicated or decided purpose. That is up to either the current board or future boards. And I think it's important. The reason we're doing it this way, the reason Honor and Maria, and Melissa and Bob and everyone have structured the deal this way is it gives the town of Simsbury and future boards flexibility as the town evolves.
That's correct.
It doesn't restrict us in any way at this point. And when there comes a time that a decision can or needs to be made for that land, we have the ability to make it. So I think that's important here. And again, I appreciate the work on everybody because I know that made the deal a bit more complicated, but I think it's important that one of the important factors for this was leaving some flexibility in the future as our town evolves. So, and I know there's been much discussion on that. All right, Bob, thank you for the explanation. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries 4-0. And arguably one of the most exciting things that I've ever seen on a Board of Selectmen agenda and been a part of is the next one, which is to authorize the town manager to execute a purchase and sale agreement. So before I ask for that motion, Honor, Bob, Maria, anyone want to say anything with respect to this before I go off on one of my sermons?
Well, I'll only say that the version of the purchase and sale agreement that you have before you has been reviewed by the Trust for Public Land and our office on behalf of the town. It's pretty close to final. There may be some tweaks to some of the language, mostly clarifying there will be no material change to it in terms of the numbers of acres or the configuration of the lots, or most importantly, the amount of money that the town will pay towards this. As you can see from the document, I'll answer questions about it, but the town's contribution is contingent on the other sources of funding coming through, and the town has the absolute right under this contract not to go forward with this transaction until it is assured to its sole satisfaction that the other money is in place. And TPL has a similar requirement for it to go forward. So it's conditioned on all the money coming into place, and Honor and TPL have done a terrific job of moving that forward. It's also conditioned on satisfactory title and satisfactory environmental, which are currently underway and will be completed by July 31st, 2021, with everything is lining up so that Honor, before the exercise date of TPL auction, everything is pretty much in place for this transaction.
Excellent. So, my fellow board members, any questions on the agreement? Anything for Bob or Honor?
I have a small question, just clarification. It's on page 11.
Yep.
And it doesn't come up out in the hemisphere, kind of, and I just wanted to bring it up here. And it was section I about honor before closing, the seller and the seller's sole discretion shall be satisfied that sufficient private or public funds, hereinafter called the raise funds, which shall include the funds that are in addition to the purchase price under this agreement, have been raised by the seller, which I assumed meant the transaction fees that we had talked about on TPL. I'm not sure if this is what it refers to. So I wanted to clarify that, and that whether or not that is met, that doesn't stop the sale from going through.
The transaction fees, I'm not familiar with.
So I'm just talking under, so on page 11,
Yep.
there was the administrative cost of TPL. It was like $500,000, I believe, on $400,000 to $500,000. I just wanted to ask if that section referred to that. And again, if it wasn't met or raised, it doesn't hurt the sale.
Honor, do you have anything you can?
Does that make sense to anybody, what I'm asking?
It does, you're just asking to clarify what that, those
Yeah.
raised funds means.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Wendy, so I'm not looking at the document in front of me, but, our attorney drafted that and I've reviewed it, and I assume that, yes, it's referring to the funds that we need to raise to cover our costs, both, due diligence, surveys, appraisals, staff time, all of that stuff. And so these transactions go in front of an internal board on our end, and we have to show them that we are, not ending up deep in the red on these things. And so we have the discretion to say, yes, we will or will not sell it. And, in a very dire circumstance, for example, we would try and figure out a way to raise those last funds before we close on the transaction. I don't see that as an issue here. We're really close, and it's just a sort of risk mitigation piece in there for us.
Yeah, and you'll see in subsection C on that same page, the town has the exact same right that if the town in its sole satisfaction is not convinced, TPL can bring its portion of the sale price to the table. And keeping in mind that TPL is bringing about 2/3 of the sale price to the table, then the town is not obligated to go forward. So what both of these sections say is both parties have to be convinced that the money is all in place, and keeping in mind that when this happens, TPL doesn't own the land, they just have the option right to purchase the land, which they're directing to the town at that point. So both parties have the ability to not go forward with the deal unless they are in their own satisfaction convinced that there's money in place to consummate the transaction.
So what I think I'm hearing here, and Woody, your point, so in that paragraph, we are the buyer.
That's
This
correct.
purchase and sale agreement is between TPL and the town of Simsbury.
Okay.
So the above section is the seller. That would be
Okay, sorry, I
TPL.
was reading it.
So at that point, TPL is,
Oh, there is a section, right,
Right.
the seller, there is, I read the buyer section,
Yeah, no,
but there's the
that's-
same thing on the seller.
yeah, no,
My
that's,
Yeah.
bad.
no, it's okay. And that's why this is so confusing. And there's been a lot of stages to this. And again, that's where Honor's expertise and her group's expertise has been critical, obviously working with Bob, as there's so many trains to get to the station at the exact right time, right? It's the best analogy I can come up with here. So that we get everybody out to the parcel.
Yeah, it's also important to note, that the town is not obligated to expend any more than 2.4 million under any circumstances.
Right.
So if things do fall short, the town would not be obligated to put additional money into the deal.
Right, so basically, Honor, what you're saying is you're close to raising that $400,000 to $500,000, and you don't see that having an impact on closing the sale.
Yeah, I don't foresee that being an issue.
Okay, that was the question.
No, that's
It
a
was a
fair
good
point.
question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So overall, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the final step for us as a board, right? Other than this going to closing and, right, Bob, this is the purchase and sale agreement. So we approve this. This goes on, and then you and Maria would attend the closing. which
Yeah,
is
and
stuff
the
slated for early to
resolution,
mid-September.
yes, the resolution that I prepared has the board approving the purchase and sale agreement and authorizing the town manager to execute and deliver all other related documents that are necessary and customary for closing of this type, so that she doesn't have to come back to the board for further authorization. If something changes, we will of course come back to the board, but if it stays, if the deal stays essentially the same as reflected in this purchase and sale agreement, under the resolution, the town manager is authorized to take it forward to closing and, execute all required documents like, the closing statement, the various tax forms that you have to file with a real estate closing. Town doesn't pay tax, but there still has to be tax forms have to be filed, that sort of thing. Acceptance of the easement, sign on behalf of the town, acceptance of the easements. Acceptance of the grants will come back to you if they come in after tonight for any reason, because that's a power of the board that's reserved to you under the charter, and I don't think it can be delegated to the to the town manager. So if there needs to be further acceptances of grants, that will come back to you.
So there may be additional needs to take those up at our future meetings, but obviously we can
Right.
make ourselves available to.
Other than that, though,
Okay.
if you pass that resolution, the town manager is authorized to complete the closing.
Absolutely. Okay. So just for the record and for the folks at home, there is a motion here, and then Bob references a resolution that's in the packet that outlines, it's underneath the purchase and sale agreement. So that is in the motion. We are passing both the giving the town manager authorization to execute the purchase and sale and to abide by the resolution as presented. So if folks need another minute just to take a look at that, I'll stall for time with, again, I'm really excited by this. Again, this is a ton of work. Honor, I know you've been in it from day one. I know Maria's been in it from day one. We've had many discussions on this. Obviously we went through a referendum. We had many ups and downs with where the funding was going to come through. And I'm personally really excited. Obviously I've been for this from day one. I know there are plenty of folks in town that don't see it the way I do, and that's okay. We can have disagreements on things like this, but at the end of the day, I think we're going to preserve a phenomenally important piece of land for our community and leave the community some flexibility to be creative in the future. So those folks that may not agree with me still have some say in what we might do in the future down there, which hopefully represents nearly everybody in this town. So I'm excited about it. Took my daughters up there the other day to show them what we were preserving for them. They don't quite get it yet, but that's the reality of what we're doing is in 25 or 30 years when they drive around town or other people's kids drive around town, this board and this town preserve that piece of land for them. It's not for me. I'll always have that memory. It is for those of us that come next. And I think that's really important as we look for ways to make an impact in a positive way on our world and our community. So with that, I would look for a motion effective July 15th, 2021 to authorize the town manager to execute a Meadowwood purchase and sale agreement as approved to form by the town attorney. Further move to approve the attached resolution as presented.
I'll move that, Wendy.
Wendy made that motion.
I'll second it.
Mike made the second. Is there any further discussion on it? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 4-0. Congratulations, everybody. Honor, thank you.
Thanks, Honor. Yeah.
Big
Thank you
day.
very much.
Thanks, everybody. Been a pleasure. We'll see you again here soon, I'm sure.
We look forward to it.
It's a
Thank you.
promise.
Take care.
All right. We do have one more item on our agenda this evening. Bob, you can hide. You can jump off too. You don't have to stay for this one if you don't want to. That's okay.
Bye, Bob.
Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
I will,
guys.
because I see dinner disappearing pretty quick over here, so.
You better get to it, my friend. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Bob.
Bob. Thanks
We
a lot.
tabled the construction inspector job description at our Monday meeting. Have conferred with Maria, and we would like to approve this subject to any substantive comment coming back from the union. If there is material changes, we would review that at personnel and bring it back. Barring any substantive or meaningful changes, we'd like to go ahead and preemptively approve that. We've done that, I believe, with the accounting position in the past.
Yes.
Again, just so that we're prepared to fill this, so when the union does respond, we can go ahead and get this job posted and get it filled, because obviously we are lean and mean from a staffing standpoint. So it's important to be progressive on this. So barring any questions, I would look for a motion effective July 15, 2021 to approve the revised job title and job description for the construction inspector position as presented.
Jackie,
Jackie moved it.
I'll second it,
Wendy
Wendy.
seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries 4-0. Thank you. And I would look for a motion to adjourn, my friends.
Motion to
I'll
adjourn.
move it. I'll second it.
Jackie moved, Mike second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.